Welcome, welcome to our fantastic webinar. I'm really excited. We've got some fantastic speakers today, as you can see. Lots of people coming in. So that's great. As everyone's coming in, I'll maybe just give a little bit of the fire and safety, so to speak. It is a live webinar, so everybody is here with us live today, which means apart from it being a dangerous operation from our part, it does give you the opportunity to ask live questions, and we'll try and get to your questions throughout the webinar. So do feel free to ask them. There is a little Q&A box there where you can shoot your questions in or your comments as we go through, and we'll hopefully get them all to the panelists. It is a recorded webinar as well, which means in the sense that we will be recording this and sharing this with all the people who have signed up afterwards and beyond. So you'll be able to catch that on YouTube, but also on our podcast as well. Well, we've got a lot of people with us. I still see people coming in, but I think we'll get into it and get started. So I do want to welcome you. We are here with some fantastic speakers. That's all right. We can go to the next slide. We have some fantastic speakers here. You can see them on the screen. We have Guillermo Dufranc. He is a sustainable packaging expert from Tridimage. Ricardo Ramos, Head of Sustainability and Compliance Officer at Monchique. And Marika, Knorr, Head of Sustainability and Communication at CCL Labels. And we're here, as we know, to talk about the future of packaging. We're talking about sustainability and we're talking about connected solutions. And I'm really happy to see so many of you with us here today to talk about this. This is, as I say, a live session. So those people who've come in, please feel free to engage directly. Give us your questions and we'll get to them. Q&A box at the bottom there of your Zoom window. So as we dive into this critical topic of sustainability, I really think we need to acknowledge a growing trend. And that has really moved from being greenwashing to green hushing. And this is where companies are now starting to actually remain silent about their sustainability efforts for fear of skepticism, criticism. There is a lot of intense scrutiny. In fact, only 28% of consumers currently actually trust the sustainability claims made by companies. Such of these statistics are really showing the challenge that companies face. Those who want to do the right thing, how do we communicate that? Those who want to do the right thing, how can we be sure we're not going to come under scrutiny? That means as we have an all-time low confidence, we have this problem where companies are staying silent, maybe not doing anything, companies who are not then talking about it. So for companies that are genuinely making good strides, and there are some fantastic changes as we see in the market, for those who are making strides in sustainability, transparency, and effective communication strategy is key. Being able to communicate that really is the only way forward. So today's session is all about breaking that silence, about showing about sustainable practices. It's not just possible, it's actually critical. We've relied on nature, now nature relies on us. And I think that's really important. And we've got to be able to actively engage our consumers to be able to regain some of that trust. So connected packaging such as smart labels and QR codes really do present a unique opportunity for that communication between the consumer and the brand. And the brand and the consumer is a bilateral, it is a two-way communication tool. Let's just go to the next slide. So here is really where connected packaging comes in here. We feel it is the opportunity to be able to involve the consumer in what you're doing. So is it about telling the story, where this has come from, why we are doing whatever we might be doing? Of course, educate them. And education is such a big thing in sustainability. I'm sure we all know the big myths where plastic is the enemy. Well, no, not always. So there's lots of different things there where educational content is really important. Of course, we can then use the connected packaging for rewards and incentives, maybe about changing behaviour, putting things in the right places, the right packaging in the right bin, but also sharing certifications and labels, which again can help build trust. Probably we need the education about the certifications and the labels, but here we have this ability to have this communication tool. And as I say, it's a two-way communication tool, so feedback mechanisms as well. So being able to understand the feedback and what people are saying. Fantastic. Somebody's already making some comments, so do keep them coming up. What we are talking about is of course sustainability and the ability to be able to really have that communication. So we're going to be talking to our experts today. I don't want to take up too much of the time, so I do want to welcome to our virtual stage our next speaker. I am just going to put this streaming also on LinkedIn, so that should be now streaming there as well. Fantastic, brilliant stuff. Okay, so please welcome Ricardo Ramos, Monchique Water's Head of Sustainability and Compliance Officer, with over 20 years of experience spanning roles as lawyer, public prosecutor, public policy management consultant. Ricardo does bring us a wealth of knowledge to this discussion. So I'm really, really excited to have you here with us, Ricardo. Welcome, how are you?
Thank you, Jenny. Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here today. And a special thanks to you and to Appetit Creative for this invitation that you have extended to me. And by the way, Jenny, once again, congratulations on the publication of your book on such an important topic like this one that has brought us here today.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And actually, that's a good reminder, because if people are staying on, then they can also have the opportunity to win a copy. So tell us, first of all, before we get stuck in, maybe just tell us a little interesting fact about you. You've got a fantastic CV of different roles. Before we get into the hardcore sessions, maybe just tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I have a kind of eclectic career because, like you have said, I began my career as a lawyer, then a public prosecutor. Then I was very disappointed with that kind of path that my career was taking. So I took a sabbatical year and I went to Cape Town. I lived there for a moment, and then something happened in South Africa that when I visited the slums there, the Khayelitsha slums, I thought that I had to do something more of my life regarding that kind of impact, that it was a shock for me to see that kind of reality. So then I moved to Brazil, and then I was a consultant in the public projects regarding social aspects and well-being of the population at a federal level. And then I was invited by Gerdau, that is the main producer of steel in the Americas, to take a role as the manager, the national manager of the fifth more important pension fund that was to the employees of that company. So it's kind of an eclectic career. Then I decided to come back to Portugal because that sabbatical year turned into 14 years of my life. Yeah. So I said, I think the sabbatical is enough now. So it's better to return to Portugal.
Yeah, 14 years in Brazil. That's a long time.
It's a life. It's a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you're really driven by the principle that, you said, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. And I think that's really quite an impactful statement.
Mm-hmm. So, because I think, yes, we are at a very dangerous moment regarding our natural resources. And we are not talking about only the environmental aspect of of our companies, because we have to have concerns regarding the social aspect also and the governance. So I think it's very important for the companies to be aware that sustainability is not only a trend, it's not only a word that is being very researched and everybody is talking about. It's the only path that we as companies have to go, because we are not going to thrive and to survive unless we go through that path.
Absolutely. So I love that. But let's talk about Agua Monchique. Let's talk about the journey that you've been on. So we know I know that you've been developing 100% recycled PET sports bottle. What were the main challenges? Tell us a lot more about that, please.
Well, regarding your question, I begin saying that at Monchique Mineral Water, we were the first company in Portugal that integrated 30% recycled PET in our packaging. We're the first ones to do that in Portugal, and we achieved that milestone a decade before the European regulations required it. So Agua Monchique embarked on the development of the 100% recycled PET sports bottle as part of this commitment to sustainability and achieving carbon neutrality, that is our big aim, by 2030. So we have also launched the Natura bottle, that is the first Portuguese bottle and one of the first in Europe to reach the market without any kind of labels. With the aim of facilitating the recycling process, the traditional labels of the bottle comes now in an eco-friendly packaging, also made of FSC certified recycled cardboard. So that you can have a notion, with the Natura bottle, we save 19 tons of virgin PET for every million bottles that you are now producing. So our journey towards creating these kind of innovative bottles involved several key challenges and solutions, like material sourcing, because as you know, the recycled PET is much more expensive than the virgin PET. So it's a big effort from our company to do that kind of incorporation and sourcing materials. And we needed to establish reliable supply chains and quality control processes to maintain the integrity of the packaging and of the bottle. Then it was design and manufacturing, because when eliminated the labels, when we used embossing instead, it's easier to recycle and minimize the environmental impact, but it has a lot of challenges regarding the production of that bottle. So, and the marketing acceptance, because we have to educate the consumers about the benefits of this kind of product, the RPET, because few persons know the importance of this in the corporation of in the manufacturing of the bottles. And we launched awareness campaigns emphasizing the environmental benefits and importance of the circular economy practices.
Okay, nice. And I think you've got a video for us to look at. So I think we'll share that, and then we can dive a little bit more into the challenges.
Yes, that video that I shared with you is it's a very, very short video about what is Monchique and how we face this company here in Portugal. And we are doing like an internationalization effort, but you are still a small company.
Fantastic. Let's see if we can get that to play for everyone.
When the morning comes, this is my favorite view. I feel privileged to witness all this beauty. Monchique, a natural treasure in southern Portugal, a place surrounded by mountains of pristine green and gently touched by the warmth of the sun. This is nature untouched in all of its splendor. Here I felt the strength of ancient rocks and trees. I shared stories and experiences with people who welcomed me to their hearts. I wandered on fresh and pure streams, where wildlife has been thriving for ages. Monchique made me a part of its breathtaking natural world. It taught me to be unique. This place made me who I am today. A mineral and natural 9.5 pH alkaline water that remains pure and faithful to its origins. A water that contributes to your health, restores your balance, and improves your sense of well-being. I am Monchique, your secret for longevity.
Okay. So yes, that gave us a little bit of an insight there. What do you feel about the obviously we put a lot of time, the company's put a lot of time into sharing the challenges that you've had to overcome. You've put a lot of time into obviously the innovation side of things. But how do you see connected packaging or technology playing a role in the sustainability story? How do you feel that could be useful for you guys?
Well, I regard connected packaging technology can play a significant role in Agua Monchique sustainability efforts by enhancing something that is very important, that is the communication with our consumers about our environmental initiatives and efforts. So this technology can really transform packaging from a simple container to an interactive tool, providing a direct link between the company and its customers, also raising awareness regarding our sustainability practices, because we are faced here in Portugal as a major sustainability-driven purpose company. So I think that enhancing that consumer engagement and education is truly important. By example, if you can scan a QR code on the bottle, consumers can access detailed information about the environmental impact of their choices. So I think that this interactive approach not only educates the consumers, but also encourages them to participate in sustainable practices by making recycle some kind of fun and engaging. And I think that is a very, very important aspect. That is, this kind of connected packaging can promote transparency and trust regarding our stakeholders. So by integrating connected packaging at our company, we can provide transparency about our supply chain and our production processes. So this could include information about the sourcing of the recycled materials, our sustainability goals. So I think that that kind of transparency helps to build consumer trust and reinforces the brand commitment to environmental responsibility. So I think it's very, very important for the brands to go through that kind of path. And it's very important for us as company to collect valuable data about our consumers. So we can analyze the data collected from the interactions with the packaging, and we can better understand the consumer preferences and behaviors, enabling us to refine our marketing strategies.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to jump to actually some of the questions that are coming in from the audience. And one of the first one is maybe a question versus a statement, but I think you've got a good answer to it. Really, based on my experience, Silviana, are companies really trying to be sustainable? Do you feel that they are really making the right efforts in general?
I don't think so. I think that the awareness regarding this kind of urgency is not a major concern regarding the companies. Because if we think that, for instance, in Portugal, 19% of the companies here are small, medium companies, they are still facing this kind of urgency, this kind of relevance of this matter as cost, and not as a path that they have to go through. So I think that the major companies, the big companies, the ones that are quoted and listed in the stock exchanges, they have that kind of awareness because they are forced to comply with the regulations. But the small, medium companies are still not obliged to comply with that. So I think that they are like pushing this towards the future and say, it's not a priority for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to jump as well to Brian asks a question. Have you generated persona groups to capture who needs or prefers what type of packaging or what type of communication? Because that differs across different groups. Humans, pets, food versus positive sustainable success, enjoyable experiences versus rewards. One choice will not be positive results for all. So I don't know how that kind of goes for you guys and the new bottles that you've got. Have you done testing with different persona groups? How have you found that, if you have?
Well, we did some tests, but our CEO, he was the one that when he was leading the company, like he began leading this company 8 years ago, he put sustainability as one of the core values of the company. So he said that our urgency was to diminish the kind of version PET that was incorporated in the bottles. So 1 decade earlier, we complied with the European regulations, and then the path was to incorporate 100% PET in the bottles. It's a big effort regarding investment and cost for us. But we are also working with the Mirpuri Foundation and a local university here in Portugal called Minho University to produce one of the first 100% biodegradable bottle, and we are almost there. So it's going to be a big achievement if we reach that landmark.
Yeah, absolutely. How many cycles of recycling are you achieving from the recycled PET before it loses its integrity? This is an anonymous question from the audience. Current thinking is that more than 10 cycles. Is that possible? Do you have any experience on that?
Well, the number that we have is like 6 to 7 cycles.
Okay, great.
But we have to make another kind of efforts because we are also, and I'm going to say something here that is a little bit of a secret, but we are going to launch a new product that is the Monchique can. So it is a bottle made of aluminum that we want to promote the reuse of the bottle, okay? So that we are not only depend on plastics. So we are going to have other kinds of packaging so that there is another kind of choice from our customers.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So multiple
Yes.
packaging at the end of the day. I know you've got a sustainability report. It talks about 4 different axes or columns: developing people, acting for climate, innovating to impact, and being transparent and fair. Can you maybe talk about those axes and talk us through that kind of sustainability strategy?
Jenny, like I said before, sustainability is one core value of our company. And I think that sustainability is about understanding that we are part of something greater than ourselves. It's not just a trend or a buzzword. It means an essential path for the survival of the business. So I think that sustainability is also responsibility and transparency. So we have those 4 major ambitions that we publicized on our first sustainability report 1 year ago. And for instance, in our new sustainability report that was published like 2 months ago, we are also stating to the public and to all of our stakeholders the progress that we are making on those 4 axes. The first one is developing people, because I think that we have to focus on the professional development of the employees and promoting equal opportunities and diversity and inclusion in the recruiting process inside our company. So sustainability is also, the training about sustainability is also integrated into our company's onboarding process, because we stated that the major part of our employees didn't know what is sustainability and what were our achievements regarding that dimension. Then we have the acting for climate. So like we already talked, we are committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and promoting environmental sustainabilities. And our initiatives include decreasing electricity consumption, utilizing renewable energy sources, and we promote sustainable mobility. All of our vehicles are electric vehicles, and we have a very strong concern regarding the waste management, because all of the waste that we have in our company is 100% recycled. Then we have innovating to impact, because I think that sustainability goes hand in hand with innovation. So the Natura bottle is one of that examples, the one that is the biodegradable also bottle. And finally, being transparent and fair, because I think that we have to be ethic in the way that we conduct the business. So our company is committed to accountability and conducts its business in a fair and legal manner.
Thank you. That's really kind of going into it. And I think that kind of shows it's beyond, hey, let's just say we're talking about sustainability and reducing our carbon footprint. But again, it's about, showing and involving the consumer education in that process. We're coming to the end of our session, but maybe you can share some thoughts on the future, What else? You gave us a little bit of a secret, which was nice. Thanks for that. But anything else in future innovations? Tell us about this.
I think that we as companies, we must know that we are not alone. So we are part of an ecosystem of companies that we have to promote industry collaborations that I think play a crucial role in driving sustainability in the beverage sector, because we have a lot of partnerships, like we are members of the Portuguese Plastics Pact, the Porto Protocol, and much more. And I think that I have to say here that we at Monchique are one of the companies that have founded the deposit and refund system here in Portugal that is going to be implemented next year. I truly believe in that system because it has very good results in the UK and in Germany. And I think that these initiatives highlight the power of the collective action in addressing environmental challenges and promoting the sustainable practices. Because, like Ellen Keller once said, alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. And I truly believe in that.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. And I think there's a fantastic phrase to finish on. So you started with us with a great phrase, and you finished. So that puts the bar up for our next two speakers. Thank you so much, Ricardo. You've given us some really great insights. There's been other questions we haven't even got a chance to, so you can, if you feel like it, answer those questions in writing to everybody afterwards. But thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, Jenny.
Well, without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, Marika Knorr. She is at the forefront of sustainability efforts at CCL Labels since 2020. Vast background in corporate communications and marketing. Welcome to our virtual stage, Marika.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Delighted to be able to take the perspective of the label industry here in this panel. Also, congrats on all the good things you have been doing. Also, let's say integrating connected communication a little bit, because I think what you said before, communication is key in this industry. Sustainability is a super complex topic. So yeah, happy to be able to contribute.
Fantastic, and lovely to have you here with us. So 4 years CCL Labels. Maybe it's a great place to start, maybe telling us a little bit about CCL Labels and the evolution that you're going through.
Okay, so maybe the most important aspect, and this is something that Ricardo touched upon in his part, is collaboration. So basically, we are more the supplier side. So we have traditionally always been a supplier to the big brands, big and small brands, locally and internationally. Our core business is labels. So everybody will have seen our products. If you go into a supermarket, if you go into a drugstore, every shampoo, oil, beverage, you know, it all comes with labels, and labels is essentially the part that sells the packaging, because that's where you do all your marketing on there, but also giving information. This core business over the last couple of years for CCL has expanded a lot. We have invested into different packaging technologies, because we also see that it's not going to be only one type. It's not all going to be in glass. It's not all going to be in plastic. Also, something that we touched upon already is there will be different packaging types for different consumers. So we also invested, you know, we do like aluminum bottles, and we do pouches and IML labels. So these are just a couple. So the diversification, I would say, has been like a big ongoing thing, not only in the last 4 years, but even before that. Then I would also say the collaboration is a thing that has really taken off. I think our position has changed a little bit from being a sole supplier to being a consultant. So we really have to explain, because although you might think that a label is just a small part of the overall packaging, you know, it's kind of like, okay, you print it, you put it on there, and you put the product on the shelf. It's not that simple. You have like a lot of materials to choose from. Some materials like work better with other ones, which is designed for recycling essentially. And so that has changed a lot, that we have to give a lot more advice and really like talk about our products, which is because we also started to do a lot more communication and marketing for that, especially to advise customers on the most sustainable option, which not always is the obvious one. And then last but not least, I will say that design for recycling guidelines and the move of all the brands of going there. And then this again, I can support the statement that I think most companies really take sustainability serious, is how you can see how they are changing their packaging. To change packaging, there's a lot of work involved. It's very expensive, it's very complex. They have to invest in new technology sometimes. So, there's a lot of investments going on to really change the packaging to make it able to be recycled at the end of life. So what I've seen during the past 4 years when I joined CCL, probably the emphasis was very much on the biggest part of the packaging, the rigid part. So a PET bottle, a glass bottle, an aluminum can, a HDPE bottle. So that was like the main focus, to include recycled content on all of that. And then down the line, you saw the smaller components of the packaging also being looked at. For example, we have the tethered caps now. That was like a big step change in this whole development. And now it's also going on to labels. So our customers are really looking at, what is my sustainable choice? How can you, change the adhesives in that to make it easier in recycling? So these are all things we've seen tremendous change in the past 4 years while I have been there.
Yeah. So many different things, and there's so many different things to touch on. There's legislation, and that's how that's impacting, as well as obviously what companies are trying to do themselves. And you talk about tethered caps. We did a lot of different communications around tethered caps using connected packaging to really explain to the customer, why is it like this? I mean, we're in the packaging industry, but we forget that the consumer has none of this kind of background knowledge or context. So I think it's really important. You also could talk about design for recycling. Maybe tell us a little bit about how these labels can impact that concept of design for recycling.
Okay, so I'll just give you an example. So years ago, that you would see like a lot of PET bottles with like paper labels on them, or you would see a lot of PET bottles with a PET G sleeve on them. It's a wonderful material. You can really easily print on it. It's high gloss. It's very shiny. It looks good on the sale shelf, but it's very detrimental in recycling. So if you imagine the one-way PET bottles all being collected and, moving through sorting into recycling, if you mix in the paper label or the PET G sleeve with the PET that you essentially want to capture to make new bottles out of it, you will have a lot of like problems with the material, because it's of low quality in the end, and you don't want anything mixed in there, because you just want to capture the pure PET flakes. And so you don't want to use anything that actually goes in with the PET. You want like a clear separation. And that's what you can do with floatable labels. I don't want to go too much into like material chemistry details, but if you have a one-way PET bottle, you always want to use a floatable label material with that, which would be polyolefin labels made from PE or a PP or a PO sleeve. So I think the only thing you really have to like understand here is that it is important which material you choose to put on a certain type of rigid packaging. So that's number one. I think the second big aspect in design for recycling, and we have done a lot of visits to recyclers, because it's actually super important to leave the office and to go visit a recycler. And that's where we always encourage our colleagues. So we take our sales teams, we take our development teams, we take them to actually visit a glass recycler, a PET recycler, an HDPE recycler. Because in theory, stuff might sound, oh yeah, okay, that's easy. But then if you really see how the process works and how labels can actually stubbornly stick on the glass colors, for example, then, you change your mind on what you have to do. So with glass recycling, for example, it's really important to choose an adhesive that releases within the whole recycling process. Maybe those are two tangible examples for now.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
go on.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just one last thing. The design for recycling guidelines have popped up. When I started with CCL, we had like 100, I think, across Europe. Everybody was coming up with their own design for a recycling guideline. And I'm very happy to see that these have been very much consolidated and harmonized. We like to look at the ones of Recyclas, Recoup in the UK, for example, and APR in the United States, because those seem to be the ones that are most aligned and give like the best advice.
No, exactly. I was going to ask what you felt about that. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think we have a video actually of the WashOff label. Let me see if we can get that shared and take a look at that, because I found that pretty fascinating.
Yeah, so these are labels that have been developed many years ago already. We've had them successfully in the market for a long time now. Those were developed for returnable and refillable glass bottles. And now, obviously, refillable systems are going to be key components of a circular economy. So what you see here is as soon as the label on the bottle hits like 80-degree hot water, which is typically where returnable glass bottles are washed, the label itself kind of like shrinks in itself, and it rolls itself up and it pulls itself off the bottle. So as you could see in the video, the ink and everything remains on the label. We have a special printing technique where we print the printing inks between the substrate, so between the substrate and the adhesive, so you have no bleeding of the ink into the water. And you could see in the video, you know, everything remains on, and you have like a really clear wash-off effect of the bottle. No adhesive sticks to the bottle. As you can imagine, if you are a owner of a washing line, you really want to move product through there quickly. Like you don't want to have to deal with like scraping off adhesive rests and stuff like that. So that's why you really need a very clean and easy removal that works in the washing conditions of professional washing lines.
Yeah, I think that was one of the main things to me. It kind of all stays together. The ink isn't released and then starts to make a mess. I thought that was really one of the most interesting things when I saw it. But what about success stories? Where have you got this at the moment working? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So as I said, the wash-off technology was invented by our colleagues in Germany many years ago. And we had our first success stories with like large beer brands in Europe. Because in Europe, you traditionally have always had a lot of returnable glass bottle systems. If you think about Germany, Netherlands, Scandinavia, and so on. So these were the first ones that started to use our labels when they wanted to do like the no label look, but also have like efficiency on the washing lines. We started rolling it out with them, and we found that especially the people who work on the washing lines, the people in operations, they love those labels because it's really easy to deal with. You know, they come off, they don't have to deal with any mess on the side, as you said. Then kind of, you know, everybody knew about it. So we had like a couple of years where we found some new customers, but it didn't really take off again. But now with like the renaissance of the reusable and refillable systems, we see a lot of interest in that again. And not only in Europe, now we see, you know, a lot of parts of the world starting up with reusable systems.
Yeah.
We just successfully launched a brand of ABI in Mexico with the WashOff labels. And we also see not only beer brands, but for example, also spirit brands that want to use a refillable bottle. And as we anticipate that not all refillable systems will be able to be in glass bottles, just because if you think about, you know, transporting glass bottles over very large distances, then you might want to think about a PET bottle again. And there are refillable PET bottles, they're thicker than the one-way PET bottles in the market that you can use. So we developed the exact same type of label for a refillable PET bottle Why did we have to develop a new label? Because PET bottles are washed at a lower temperature. So we needed to make sure that the adhesive, because the whole construction needs to work together, as you can imagine, for it to shrink at the right temperature. And so we have now a version for glass bottles, we have a version for PET bottles, and we have a version, a low temperature version for Scandinavian countries, where they usually wash the glass bottles at a little bit of a lower temperature.
So speaking of PET bottles, you mentioned before the process of bottle to bottle recycling. Could you maybe just tell us a little bit more how the floatable labels then are used in that process?
Yeah. So if you look at established, so the PET recycling process is very established. And this is also what Ricardo was alluding to, that it's the easiest. PET is like the easiest plastic to recycle, and it's already is done on a large scale. Of course, it still can be more expensive, but I think we all can agree that PET is an established process that works in like many countries, and many countries are adapting it now. If you look at the PET recycling process, and this is like a very simplified version of it, it's the same in pretty much every country. So you will always have, like, of course, collection is like the basis. Then you will have sorting. So you need to make sure that the bottle, the PET bottle, can be detected through like any type of label that you want to use on there. Then you have a step is grinding and washing. And then after that, and this is where the magic happens, you have a sink float process, which is like step number 4 here. And it's basically a big swimming pool where the ground up PET flakes, label materials, and caps come together. And what you want to happen here is a very clean separation of the PET material. PET is a high density material, so it would always sink to the bottom of the basin. And so you want everything else to float, because that's how you get like a density separation without having to add any chemicals, anything else. It's like pure water separation. And you can imagine that you have like a very clean fraction on the ground, a fraction of the PET that you can use to do bottle-to-bottle recycling, so feed it back into bottle production. And then the floating fraction, most recyclers also take that and sell it to a mixed polyolefin recycler that can do something, components for construction, automotive, but increasingly also objects that we use in everyday life. So floatable really is the way to go if you want to recycle more PET. This is on a lab scale, what I was just explaining. So you see you have like a really clean separation. All the inks remain on the label material, no contamination of the washing water. So these PET flakes are ideal and very clean to recycle them back into new bottles, which ultimately is what everybody wants to do to close the loop.
Definitely. And there's a lot of legislation that's evolving. How can brands really kind of prepare for this future changing? There's so many different things that are happening, not just about labels, but in sustainability, EPR, etc. How can brands prepare for future changes in these packaging requirements?
Yeah, that's a very interesting aspect, because I think now we slowly have clarification on what the packaging and packaging waste regulation will bring. Us and also other companies have been waiting for this clarification, and nobody really wanted to make like big moves. Maybe that's also something you were alluding to in the beginning. That companies have maybe shied away a little bit from communicating too much because it was unclear for a while which direction it would take. I think now we have this clarification, so it's basically going to be integrating more recycled content into your packaging products to go more circular. There's like some labeling aspects that you have to take a look at, refillable, reusable schemes. So I think, now you have like a really good direction on where to go. And I think brands really have to decide now. They have like a basis on to decide which technologies they want to invest into for the next couple of years. If you think about packaging and filling lines, there's always a big...
Oh, Marika, we've lost you. That's a shame. We lost her just as she was telling us about, we lost you. You're back?
I'm back. I'm back.
All right.
Okay, sorry, I'm back. Little disconnection here. So where did you lose me? I was talking about packaging and filling lines, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so these type of investments need to be done now, and then brands can decide on which packaging materials they want to go with, like what's the safest bet for the future. And then, again, look at the design for recycling guidelines and really get that packaging changed so that it can be recycled in the end.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that really goes into what Jaroslaw, who is one of the participants, one of the audience members at the moment, he says, you're right, for many producers, the law is still incomprehensible. And I think that's what you're saying, it's very much about consultancy. We find that ourselves. It's about guiding, first of all, adapting many of the current packages, the packaging lines, which can be a long process. And he says he's really looking for arguments to encourage producers to talk now, and maybe even start the transformation into new and better packaging. I just want to kind of round us up and talk maybe about more of those challenges, really. Obviously, lots of brands are looking at different solutions at the moment, whether it be changing their labels, changing their packaging. For brands that are thinking about changing their packaging, what are the challenges that they normally see?
So, of course, for a long time now, I think we've had a lot of discussion on pricing. We try to normalize the sustainable products, but of course, a lot of R&D work goes into that in the beginning. So the tendency is always that the price point will be like a little bit higher in the beginning because you have to pay off on all the innovation and everything and what you're doing, and also sometimes it's innovative materials that are just purely more expensive. So I think that is being addressed and also tackled. Another challenge were the technologies. So for a long time, it was unclear which direction to go into. So investments into packaging and filling lines can now be done. We try to offer drop-in solutions. A drop-in solution is a solution where you change out the material or the technology a little bit, but customers can continue to use their filling lines and everything. So we try to do that to make it easier for everybody. And I think general challenges are also sometimes, let's say, the alignment internally, because sometimes we see a difference between what purchasing wants and what the circular economy people want, and that's exactly the same thing for us. We are also we're not only a supplier, we are also a customer from like our suppliers. So that's what we see a lot. But I think the alignment is getting like a lot better between that everybody knows exactly what the way forward is and what we want to do, and align on common goals to make change happen.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different things there, but you're quite right. It's about aligning different parts of the businesses as well, even internally within the business. So thank you so much. There is another question that maybe you can answer in the chat, because we must move on, but thank you so much for your time. Thanks for sharing your expertise with us today, and I'm sure lots of people have learned about that kind of separation, which I found pretty fascinating. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Guillermo, we're moving to yourself, and we're going to now dive deep into the world of eco-conscious packaging and explore how innovation can actually make a difference. I'm really honoured to be joined with you again today. I know you've been with us once before, and you have a fantastic book, Packaging to Save the Planet. It's making waves in the industry, and of course, I'm sure you'll have an opportunity to talk to us about this fantastic book as well. But welcome to the virtual stage, Guillermo.
Thank you, Jenny, for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here with those amazing people and all these speakers. I really love the stories that you have shared. I think it's really interesting to see how companies are implementing changes towards a more sustainable future.
Absolutely. So we need to jump in. So as we know, sustainability in packaging has become a hot topic. We know that consumers are more conscious of their impact, of their decisions, their purchase decisions, their purchases. You've definitely been a key voice in this space. So maybe just tell us a little bit about why did you get drawn to packaging and saving the planet?
Well, great, thank you. Well, I have been working in packaging design for the last 25 years. However, my journey with sustainable packaging started when I first went to Patagonia in 2011, 15, almost 15 years ago. Talking about sorting waste was like science fiction, at least here in my country. So it was really strange for me at the first time, but then that experience stuck me, and I really started thinking, well, I am helping brands to design packaging to be more interesting, to be more attractive, to sell more. But what about sustainability? Why is nobody caring about this? So I started doing something to change this reality. So during the pandemic in 2020, I started my YouTube channel, started talking with people that were willing to talk with other people during the pandemic specifically. So we share a lot of experiences there that led me to write the book, and also to develop the sustainable packaging area in the agency I work for, in Tridimage. So we started to adding that sustainable dimension to all the projects, even though in those projects that sustainability was not a requirement at first time. But in the last 2 years, the thing really changed, because all the companies are really into sustainability, and they are a little bit more worried and a little bit more interested in finding better solutions. So that was a great relief for me after 4 years of talking about this topic and writing about this topic. It really it's something that it's make me really happy that I see the wheels turning finally.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a really different approach that you have. It's more like the packaging is now an opportunity to create something different or to make an impact, rather than just something that's going to be discarded. So as you say, kind of bringing it into those briefs where actually that wasn't part of the brief at all, but kind of bringing it into it. That brings me to the book, Packaging to Save the Planet, which is definitely a fantastic guide for anyone in the industry looking to make a shift towards more greener practices. But maybe you can tell us a little bit more about chapter 8. That talks about paper bottles. So you talk about pros and cons and this new innovation. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, great. When I started the book in 2021, paper bottles were still something that was coming in very early stage, but I thought somehow that this was a topic that is going to be hot in the future, because they are a really interesting innovation, and we have seen many over these years, the 3 years. So it's really changing and evolving every day. They are great, but I think we don't have any silver bullet. So it's not just one solution for the future. It's a combination, like Ricardo said, it's a combination of solutions. As it's not the material what makes the packaging sustainable, it's the system. So the concept has been around for many years. In 2005, I think it was the first concept of the paper bottles. The idea, it's interesting. Imagine for a milk jug, to prevent the bulky bottle where once they are empty in the landfills, they were so bulky that the person who thought for the first time of the paper bottle wanted to reduce that bulky milk jug. So the early version was used for milk and later for laundry detergent. And the paper bottles were imagined in 2013 with a wine, with a paper bottle wine, right? And it remained the same. It's like a paper shell with a bag inside. Now we have a new version with coatings and something that it's never revealed, because I think that's the secret. But the secret, it was makes us not understand fully understand how much recyclable is that paper with that coating, right? So paper bottles are an hybrid, except for dry products, which maybe it's a great solution for that kind of products, right? Some bottles really have to reduce the use of plastic, because we are using a really small amount of plastic, and on that side it's interesting. But well, the most barriers are really concerning. The plus side is that these bottles are really lighter than glass bottles, which has a great impact on transport, because they also travel in like cartons, so they really reduce also the space on transportation. So if we consider that we have a reduced carbon emissions on transportation, paper bottles really are a great way to improve that. And also, when you don't have facilities to recycle PET or glass, it's also a valid option, right? So paper bottles may represent progress. They are highlighted as the complexity of materials, how difficult it is to sort all these parts at the end of life. But I think there's an interesting way to think differently the materials according to the system and to the conditions that we have in different areas. So my conclusion is that this is something promising, that maybe is something new that may have a place in the future. But I think the collaboration between all the stakeholders, like they say, engineers, sustainability experts, consumers, it's the only thing that makes things work in the future, right? So it's a combination, as I say, a combination of solutions. It's not just one.
Yeah, and I really like what you say there as well. Is it's not really about one is the packaging material that we must all move to, because it really does depend on, as you say, what it is that you're packaging, what is your particular product, and what is the recycling process, and what is there available at the time. And I think that's really important. It's quite easy to get caught up in the excitement of new technology, and this is the way forward, and this is the way forward because it's new. But I think it's really important to consider all the aspects of sustainability, the trade-off, the pros and the cons. And I think you really highlighted that. I think, you're saying, as your slide says, it's about progress. It's not the silver bullet. It's not the magic. But where do you think the future of packaging design is heading? Do you see paper bottles becoming mainstream, or have you got any other innovations on the horizon that you think we should be keeping our eyes peeled for?
Well, I think the future relies on reducing our reliance on single-use packaging altogether, no matter the material. Right? Reusable packaging models, reforestation, returnable containers, that should become the norm. However, the consumer engagement has been a little limited, as we've seen in the reuse trials. Some fail, some, I think they are going to come back remixed in some way. But I think that regulations will drive greater adoption of reusable packaging, as it's clearly the best solution. While when it's not possible to reuse, design for recycling is the next step, right? And in that way, I think that paper bottles are rigid. I've seen many rigid pulp paper packaging, which it's another variety of packaging that could also work, because paper it's more widely recycled than other materials, and especially in some areas we don't have a facility for PET or for glass, which are really intensive, the energy that we need. I think that all these bio-based materials like paper and other ones, but to compost, that would be great if you don't have the possibility to recycle. So also comes another possibility is to compost paper bottles, which is another end of life scenario. Which is also valid because maybe we don't have compost facilities in all cities, but we don't have also recycling facilities in all cities or areas or rural areas. So I think this combination of solutions is what has to lead to packaging innovations, to packaging decisions. I think that as I said, the future is a combination of solutions on having in mind what is available and what is possible to do in certain of areas. It's not just, okay, we have to follow these 5 rules and we have to design everything with the same perspective, right? We have to know also the people who are we are designing for. So it's a complex subject because we have to take so much into account. We usually tend to want to find one solution and to apply it for everything. And I think that's the end of the something that works for everything, and start thinking what works for certain or specific scenarios and areas and people and communities.
Definitely. And I think that kind of speaks to, we have an anonymous attendee who said, you know, how would you rank paper bottles versus aluminium for performance, for circularity and recyclability and supporting systems? I don't know if you feel like you've already answered that, or if you want to make any additional comments to that.
Oh yeah, it's great. I think that aluminium bottles could be great for reuse, and also it's interesting if you have a scheme to return and recycle it, because recycling aluminium has really less impact than manufacturing one aluminium can. And aluminium is one of the materials best paid in the recycling market, so there is a willingness to recycle aluminium because it's interesting for monetary reasons. So it's great. But if you don't have that scheme and you don't have the ability to recycle aluminium, it's not the best way. The best alternative maybe in those scenarios is better the paper bottle, because paper maybe could be composed, maybe could be recycled, provided that the most of a rear is not an issue, right? That's why it's important to understand, fully understand what is the exact materials that they have, and what is the purpose of that material, if they have the right conditions to preserve the product. So it's not just choosing the best material for the sake of it, it's for the system, right?
Yeah, I like what you say there. You know, it's not just about the materials, it's about the system, but also about the mindset, right? Because again, you could spend loads of time creating this paper bottle, or having these labels that wash off in a reuse system, or actually having the 100% recycled. But if the end the consumer puts that in the landfill bag, bucket, bin, whatever you might want to say, then actually we failed, because it is about that kind of circular mindset, right?
Yeah, sure.
You know, so I think, you know, it all goes back to the consumer. And I think personally, this is where connected packaging kind of comes in. It's about really educating that consumer. There's quite a lot of education that needs to go on, educating around brands in how, you know, they can have better options and there are better choices out there. But then also it's about the consumer, because you can spend so much time on a digital return system, on a reusable packaging, but in the end, you know, you've failed if your consumer ends up putting that in at landfill anyway, because it never gets to see the realization at the end. You know, you've got to think about the entire life cycle of the product and how it gets back. Guillermo, what about advice for designers, or if you have anything to comment to what I just mentioned there as well, but, you know, advice for designers and companies to take a step back and look at the bigger picture and maybe see all of the different options out there. What do you kind of recommend? What are your pointers or your places that they should evaluate?
Well, what I think my advice for designers is to step back and look at the bigger picture. Sustainability goes beyond just the material, and also refrain you from falling into greenwashing, right? Telling something to consumers that is not true. So the first thing I think we have to start is to how can we reduce the use of materials, or how to source it locally to minimize transportation emissions, which is something not always addressed when choosing a material. It's just, well, let's pick the best material. Well, where it comes from, we have to bring it 3,000 miles away, so that's not sustainable. Consider using renewable or recycled feedstock, making the packaging lighter, opting for mono materials to simplify recycling, or beyond improving the existing packaging. It's also important to rethink the design for reuse, or supporting a refill scheme, or recycling, using widely recycled materials in that area, standardized colors, because I know this goes exactly at the opposite side of brand differentiation. But if we are standing for sustainability, we have to make some efforts and trade-offs to make more recyclable or easy to recycle the materials, easy to separate the materials, avoid adding laminates to paper that could complicate the recycling process. So, and you can also explore changes on the product, like concentrated of solid product that will reduce the amount of water, the amount of weight and space that it took in transportation, because transportation is something that we don't see in the packaging itself. But when we fill a truck with packaging and then we see the amount of carbon emissions that the transportation has, it's much more than the packaging itself. So thinking about a lighter and smaller packaging is also more sustainable, for sure. So the key, I said, is collaborations, is to work with different areas, because sustainable packaging is not only for designers, it's for the whole value chain, right? It's the sourcing materials, manufacturing, transportation, use, end of life, because we have to help to close the loop. And that's why communication is so important. Connected packaging could help a lot to bring information and instructions. So it's thinking about the whole the whole value chain. So it's not only packaging. I think it's the problem here is not that it's only the problem of a company or a packaging designer. It's of a society. If we have to change our mindset, because people in companies are people like you and me, and like these people here. So if we have another mindset, we will make different decisions on businesses. It's not just we have to study sustainability to understand what it is. We have to make it our own ethic in life. So it's the way we act, it's the way we decide, it's the way we live our lives, right?
Yeah, it's a real change in behavior rather than just a one-off decision. Completely agree with that. What are some of the exciting trends or innovations that you see coming up? What's exciting you that you see on the horizon?
Well, for sure, I think that biomaterials are really interesting, or the feedstock based on biological materials are really interesting, because we need to shift to renewable materials, and we are relying a lot on materials that are not renewable. Glass is not renewable, aluminum is not renewable, plastics in some way they are not renewable. So moving into that and finding the balance between what we have to eat and we need to make packaging of. It's something interesting, because biomaterials have a significant reduction in carbon emissions because they capture carbon, but it's a great challenge how we manage land and agriculture to create a great balance about that. So I think it's the new wave. I think it's the bio-based materials, mycelium, and paper-based packaging and all that kind of stuff. I think that's interesting, and also improving what we have now, right? On all the technical materials we have now, and how we can make them more easy to recycle, right? Also communication. I think that the great shift is it's the communication and the way we incorporate sustainability in our daily lives. So I think that's what I would like to see in the future, is it's a shift in the mindset of all the people. It's just, we are doing what we have to do. It's not just, okay, we are investing in this brand or in this project because people says, or the law says what we have to do. It's just, we are doing it because it is the right way to do. It's the right way to do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, as we're coming to the end of our webinar, Guillermo, tell us what else you're working on. Anything interesting?
Well, it's interesting, at least for me. I am working on my new book, which is called Green Industrial Revolution, which addresses the origin of the shift of the mass consumption industry. It's not just packaging, it's also for products. So I wanted to create a practical guide, because the previous book, it was interesting to have examples and to have a lot of concepts, but you say, well, how could I start with this? So I wanted to create a guide that covers the account of emission, the circular economy, and examples, because it's not just, okay, ideas and things, how to put it in practice. Eco design strategies. Also, I have researched a lot to what are the alternatives to change the packaging, change the system, change the product, and what are a classification of ideas. So it's a clear guide to start doing things right away. I also cover the AI, which is interesting because we really don't know how is it going to end. And to wrap this up, it's a summary of actionable guide with some step-by-step guide for implementing changes on companies or any businesses. So in addition to the book, I am continually collaborating with companies to think the packaging. I'm also sharing ideas with people like you and Ricardo and Marika, and that's what makes me more happy, because it's where I see the changes that we are needing coming to reality.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for you, it's all about mindset. If we kind of sum that up, maybe I'll just go to Marika and Ricardo, just to have the kind of final words from yourselves as we look to the future, as we give advice to any of the brands who are watching. Marika, you've come off mute first, so that means you must be ready. What would your kind of leaving thoughts or words be?
Well, I think I would just sum up of what was delivered before. So probably 3 key takeaways would be: if you want to recycle more PET, go floatable. If you want to reuse your packaging, look at the wash-off options and make sure that the adhesive is adjusted. And then I think always, when in doubt, take a look at the design for recycling guidelines and work together with your suppliers to make sure that the packaging can be recycled at the end of life.
Fantastic. Thank you. Very clear. Ricardo, what are your leaving thoughts and words?
I think that this kind of initiatives, like the ones that we are here together with Guillermo and Marika, have tell us and teaches us that effectively there is hope. So I believe that every small action that we make towards a more sustainable future is really a beacon of hope regarding the path that a lot of industries are making. Many of them are making an effort all by themselves alone, and I think there is a big lag of investment by the governments regarding the development of alternatives so that we can have a more sustainable future. But we are fighting, so I think that there is still hope in the horizon.
I like that. At least we've got some hope. Thank you so much. It's really been fantastic having you with us. Thank you also to the audience. Really great interactions and questions. Catherine Farr, you are the winner of this fantastic connected packaging book, which I will share with you and send. So please do send your address. And you've got some really practical tips of connected packaging and how to use it. I'll also share the details of Guillermo's book that's out now, and I'm sure we'll be able to share when the new one's out as well. I thank you all for your time, for your questions, for your presence, for your fantastic insights, and I wish you all a very lovely, fantastic Tuesday. Thanks very much.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.